All right, final leg, final lap. So what I did is I went down and got into my defense report, so you guys don't have to watch me scrolling through massive reports. And we're going to go through all-stars, and we're just going to look, and not all of these are positive, and I understand that. I mean, if I was like 75 or 80 million, I could probably strategically heal and have all positive reports possible. But without rain and all-stars and the amount of troops that they send, it becomes a little difficult. So with this one, and I'll look into this just and show you guys, because I discussed in the last video about debuffs and the gear setup and what I go with to get the most out of it. And you'll see it here. The attack 5360, which in Continent 1, like, that's good, but it's not great. I mean, mine's at 5,000, and I'm not no rally setter in all-stars, I'll tell you that right now. And then when it comes to siege, like, HP becomes really important, which my target goal for a long time has been 2,000, and I'm not at 2,000 HP to buff yet, but I want to keep working at it, because I think I can get better. I was rallied twice by Hot in SVS, and it was negative, which really bummed me out, because the last time we faced them, they did the same thing with 2 rallies on me, and it was positive. So, but just a quick look at what the rally was, and then let's look in the details and just kind of see, which I did have some good rain. So let's just look and see what's killing what here. I mean, the 15s, they kind of wipe. They kind of always wipe. The 14s, they engage for sure, but I feel like I'd need more 14s, and I feel like I need more 13s, because, I mean, they did a fair amount of killing, but when you're losing 16 million of them, it doesn't take long for them to clear through everything. But we just take a look and see what else is doing the killing. I mean, of course, Cav, what you would expect against a siege rally. And then we'll just go down here and see if any other layers of siege are engaging. And it's kind of a not really kind of thing. But I also like to look at what the mounted layers, which mounted layers are doing a lot of killing. And then you can add. So like the 7 didn't do very much, but the 8 did. So that kind of tells me, well, I should probably build some more 8s. And then the 9s did okay, but only about half of what the 8s did. So it kind of tells you, like, okay, well, I should probably build more 8s. And the 10s didn't do anything, so we ain't going to mess with that. The 11s didn't do anything. But let's look at what siege. T10 siege killed a little, but the 11 killed quite a bit. The 12 did not kill so much. And then we saw the others, the 13s. So it just tells me I need to build more 13s and more 14s, definitely. But pretty standard with siege. That's an easier report to look through. But that's what you want to look for. We get a better idea with the next one, because it's Archer. So like that will likely tell us a lot more. So let's look at it. It was a big rally. It was 109 million. That's a pretty big rally. So then we look, and you know what you expect. Your high tiers are going to get decimated, and they did. And they're not killing much. With ground, a lot of people like look at ground, and I'm like, yeah, but honestly, your Cav and your siege are probably engaging archers well before your ground is. So, and this is my opinion. This is how I've looked at it. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but my thought process is if the ground is going way ahead, and they are actually engaging before the cav or the siege, then it would totally wipe out that rally. Like, siege wouldn't be getting a lot of kills. Cav wouldn't really get any kills, right? Because the ground would be there already. So in my opinion, the ground is a cleanup crew. They get there after the fact. So they get there after the siege and the cav have kind of done their thing and played their role. So they cleared my 13s. This time they did clear my 12s, and they got a fair amount of my 11s. But you notice the tier that where the rally stops killing, for the most part, they're getting a lot of kills. Like, that's 11 million, so that's 1/10 of the rally. But this is the one thing that I did notice is, so the rally stops there, right? And in past, I believe that the rally stopped there, and I did not see any other cav wounded. And I could be wrong. I could have just overlooked it. But then you look at some of these cav layers, like the 10s killed 1.7, right? And no wounded. And the 9s killed 1.5 and no wounded. And the 8s killed with no wounded. And the 7s killed with no wounded. Now we get to the 6s, and they are taking wounded, but they're still killing 1.8. So these layers that are not being wounded, but are killing troops, and it's mounted, which is what Archer would engage first, in my opinion, the way I view how the dynamics work. So that tells me that these layers that are killing and not getting wounded, like, those layers should be added to. Like, those should be thicker layers, because clearly they're killing archers early in the battle. So we keep on going. So the 6s took wounded, but they did kill some, but they are taking wounded again. And then the mounted, the T5s are taking wounded, and they are killing some. So, you know, there's layers. It's hit and miss. But it does tell me that the layers that aren't being wounded but are killing probably should be bumped up. So here we're at T4, and no wounded. They killed 3 million. And then, you know, as you would expect, or maybe not expect, you're seeing some wounded in the mounted again, the T3. T2, no wounded, and it's getting kills. And the T1 as well. So we need to look at these reports and look at these layers and be like, hey, like, these troop types are not taking any wounded, and they're killing a real good amount of troops. But again, everything else, you always have to check what was sent, because you're like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't a pure march, because I did notice that some of them were sending mixes, but also that could be that it goes so fast in All-Stars. Rallies are just one after the other. So with that being said, it could be a deal of someone sent the wrong march by accident, because I did see one that was a mix of siege. It was an archer rally with one siege march and one cav march. And that one was actually a really good rally. So with this one, this is a pure archer. So you can kind of take that. You take that one to the bank. And then I just want to go over one more, just because I like to double check. I like to show, hey, this is what's going on. It was in one report where it proved true, but we need to go into a second one. So this is Sly. He's a really, really great player from RSP, and you see it here. Because there's not very many people, Reigns or not, there's not very many people that are going to get to say that, you know, we sent 2 at you and we got the best of you. But they did, and we'll look at the buff, and I'm sure his is really, really good, which, you know, 5,600, it is solid. Yeah, this is the siege, which I don't see the point in going through the siege. We just went through one, and Siege reports are kind of siege reports. Take it, see where you need to add troops, see maybe add some HP if you can in city. I want to go back to the archer again. This time I had heaps of rain. So, you can't shame or fault those guys for that rally. Because these happened right after another. And you're talking one rally, they were positive, and then this one they were negative. So ultimately across the board it ends up being positive between the two rallies, but the damage is done. And let's look at the buff. 63-33. So yeah, his archer is significantly better than his siege. And I think this is the one where we might have saw some change, some mixing going on. Maybe it was the one after that, but I'm only going to do these two. I don't see the point in looking at a third one. It's the same. So this one was the mix. It's got some siege in, and I think it was small siege is what was in here. Yep, and it was. It didn't do so well. But also I did have rain, and probably a lot of those rains were probably siege rains that had come late from the first rally. And I know that there was a ground in here somewhere. Yeah, there it was. And then they sent ground, which there's not huge numbers here, but it doesn't matter because it's taking out that, and it wasn't layered all the way either. So that's a little rough. Remember to activate everything, guys, before you're in. So let's see what it did. It cleared the 15s. Oh, we're down to the 12s already. Cleared everything down to the 12s. And then on the T11 mounted, it did not. Let's see what happened with the 12s. So it ended right there, and you started to see the numbers, 4.3 mil there, 2.4 mil there, and then your siege. What would I expect from the siege? I would expect the bigger numbers to start happening at T11, which, kind of. Oh, there it is, T11. And then I would expect T10 did a fair amount, and I would expect T9 siege to do a fair amount. Yeah, so tiers 9 through 11, in my opinion, are super important on your defense to kill archer rallies with your siege troops. But then let's take a look here. So the mounted finished at 12, so we're not real surprised that 11 was not getting any wounded. But let's go down and see if we can find where the wounded started, because I know it did. Because I looked at this report earlier. That's where it started. So tier 5 had some. Not a lot, but some. And then you look like these, which this report's going to be a little different than the other one because it was mixed. So you got to take that into account. So this one is kind of a little tough to really differentiate that theory of adding to those areas, because you look down here and then the T1s, some of them were hit. So that means that some of the rally did make it beyond the first turn to be able to be getting into the T1s. Just to do the due diligence, so we'll look one more time at one more report. That is not me. Let's see. So there was a siege. Was there also a... No. I want to look for a double. Maybe this was... That was not. So here's the same one. We'll see if this one was mixed. Archer, 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 Archer. Archer. Whoa. That one kind of surprises me, that combo. Archer, Archer, Archer. So they did that. That was on purpose. That they were doing this. I mean, I would assume. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Anyway, let's see how this one played out. I haven't looked at this report in depth, so we'll see what happened with the mounted and if the theory does hold up to be true. And I hope it does, because I'd hate to look like a jackass. So that time they ran all the way through the T10 mounted, and that's when you started to see some real numbers. And, we're seeing 8s doing some killing, 7s doing some killing. So here you see the T6 mounted didn't take any wounded, but here the T5 did. And let's look at the Tier 4. The Tier 4 did not, but it didn't kill very much, so I wouldn't advise adding numbers there. And then they hit the T3s too. It really blows my mind, because I thought in the past that they would basically kill from top to bottom, and then when it got to, say, your 11 stopped them from killing anymore and the rally was dead. I don't recall seeing wounded below that, but also I wasn't looking for it, so I don't absolutely know. And some of this, the dynamic might be different in some way that I don't know. So some of these tiers, they may kill a lot against one rally, and it may be different against another rally. I don't know. So with this one, as you can see, the T3s, they took a little bit of a beating. And the T2s did not, and the T1s did not, which you would kind of expect that. So I do think there are certain layers that are working on this dynamic that are not taking wounded, but they're killing a lot. So I do think there is something to this. And it's one of those things you have to just keep an eye on it and continue to test it and see what happens. A lot of my friends in the game have asked about reading reports. How do you know what to send? How do you know it's going to be positive? So this is what I do if I scout someone. Like, say it's a keep, we'll say, because I'm in a smaller alliance, so we need to pick our targets carefully. So if it's, like a K40 or even a K41 or even a K42, and they don't have very good siege buffs, but they have a lot of siege and they don't have reigns, you can big siege that and you're going to be positive. And that's what you want to do, is ideally you'll siege archer cav ground, and ideally in that situation, when you're in all-stars, it doesn't matter. You're just running rallies. Positive, negative, good, bad, ugly, whatever. You got to run. But if you see enough siege, and it's enough siege that you're going to be point positive, and even if you're not going to be point positive, you got to do it anyway. So, you'll siege them, and then if you're a really strong team, you can just run all four and just keep running. But if you're a team that's, it's going to be a close battle and you got to be really careful, siege, and then you can wait and look to decide whether you should siege again or not. Because you may not need to. Like, if it's a really good clear, then you can just send archer. But that's one thing that, a lot of people asking, how do you know what to send? And And, against traps, even as a solo, like, I use that special trap killer march. And that one, unless there's a lot of rain, always serves me well. I have developed a siege march that is designed to target archers, and I used certain layers that I have tested and studied that do tend to kill more archers than some of the other layers. So I've kind of invented my own, basically an archer killer march that's siege, and it's usually pretty good. Like, as long as there's not a ton of rain, it's usually pretty good, because by the time I send it, I've already sent an archer and usually cleared most of the high tier cav. So so far it's been working pretty good. Some more testing on that needed, and that's basically, like, when you look at a keep and you scout a keep, your idea should be, okay, how can I hit this keep and have it be to my benefit? Like, what can I send that's either going to weaken him and or be really point positive? That's just something that takes practice, and, like, have an open mind. And also, for you newer servers, like, don't just take stuff at face value. You need to ask, well, why does it work? How does it work? Show me a report. Don't just take someone's word that, oh, if you do this, it'll be a good attack, or if you do this, it's going to be a good defense. Cross-reference it. Talk to other players. Talk to people that have a lot of experience in the game. Because a lot of people are just, like, recycling YouTube info. And, I mean, I understand we're on YouTube and I'm a YouTuber, but I can tell you, the people that watch my shit, it is guaranteed they do not take me at face value, because there's lots of them that you pretty much, like, want to straight argue. Even if I've shown the report and given you the proof, I still have people that, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, you know what? I can be wrong, but when I have 20, 30, 40 reports that tell me the same thing, like, you're telling me I'm wrong? Maybe I am, but as long as the results are good, it doesn't matter to me whether I'm wrong or not. The results are good and show that it works, and that's good enough for me. But just don't take stuff at face value, because people talked about flats, and now we've got heaps of players with tons of all flats, and it's complete rubbish, and you're offering up all your other troops to buff, like, 5 tiers of one troop type, and a lot of the players that initially went that way, like, have changed, because I was a big proponent of flats, and I did flats. I had flats on siege, and I was like a siege trap, and I did one SVS. I scored 40 billion points that way, because they kept sieging me, and I had all my high tier siege ghosted, so they were hitting lower tier siege that were influenced by flats, and they were negative every time. So with that being said, be willing to try new things. Be willing to, and don't let someone say, "Oh, it doesn't work that way." And you ask them, "Well, how do you know?" And they don't have an answer. Well, so and so said so. Oh, okay. Well, the garbage man told me to invest, in some bullshit stock. Does that mean I'm going to take his word for it? I'll do a little research, figure it out myself. I'm going to take someone's word on the street. What's wrong with you? So let's cross-reference and find out, and talk to a player that's got experience. And if you talk to a player that has experience in Shalons and has a lot of experience in All-Stars, you can take that to the bank, because they'll keep reports, and they can show you and explain how, why, and when it works, rather than someone that, I know a lot, I know the game really well, and it's all based on YouTube videos without any actual experience, you can't understand the game properly if you don't have a lot of experience, because you need to experience it yourself, and then you will learn what works and what does not work, based on like real stats, real data, not just something that some Joe Schmo pulled off, whatever on YouTube. Because I used to be that way too, and I'd be like, oh, it was really good. And then my buddy, I think it was probably Khan. It usually be Khan or Ajax, some of the originals from Server 188. And they'd be like, yeah, but look, his buffs were really bad. And then I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I learned a lot in 188. Players like Khalid, Ajax, they could go out in an SVS and completely like change the trajectory of it. Like they could go out and they're going to be positive and they'd win. But also, back in those days, people were a lot more risky in SVS. Now it's all damage control. People don't want to play, and it's like, if we get ahead, if we get like one rally in, we're ahead, then we can just stay bubbled. So it's really, really conservative, which doesn't make for very, very much gameplay that's fun. And maybe Evony changes something in the future to make it more fun. So we'll see. But yeah, that was kind of my rundown on the reports, what to look for when you're hitting. I didn't want to scroll through a bunch and to find a scout report to show you guys that. I figured explaining it was good enough, and then going through and showing this dynamic that I really hadn't noticed before. And maybe it's been there the whole time and I just didn't pay attention. But if not, I've never really heard of anyone talking about that, which I know a lot of people do, will keep some things to themselves and they don't want to give out too much. But yeah, from what I saw in those reports, there's certain layers of cav that are going to kill without being wounded, and it's a good idea to add those numbers. Because a report can't tell you everything, and I can't say anything for 100% certain. There's no way I'm wrong, but I can tell you that from looking at the report from my point of view, it tells me that these calves are killing archers when they're being hit by archers. So likely that is early on in the battlefield. And for whatever reason, it works that way, and we should at least build a little bit and test and see what happens, and if it does remain true that it is working that way. But I've rambled on long enough. It's what, 3 videos in one night. That's a good chunk of time. Anyway, I hope you guys find these videos helpful. I hope that you do well in All-Stars. If some changes need to be made, like, bro, seriously, like, get rid of all the flats. You don't need them all, because I've had people say, well, I've got 1 billion horses, so I need more flats. And I'm like, that's reverse thinking. I have 500 million T1 horses, and I only have 1 mounted HP flat supporting it, and it holds up well, and my horses hold up well, all things considered. Because most people, like, they think they're sending 100 million archers, like they're figuring they're getting you at least down to your T8s, T7s, which in the reports you saw, that doesn't happen with my account. So you don't need that many flats. You don't. I've only got, well, now it's 600 million horses, but only 1 mounted HP flat and no others. No defensive flats for them, no attack flats for them, because I don't think it's necessary, and I think it's smarter that you use those gear refined somewhere else that's going to benefit you, rather than just one troop type. and really limited, because it's going to be the bottom 5 tiers is where that power all goes. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. I hope it helps you guys grow and become stronger and become better players. And that's the main reason that I even do these videos. I've learned a lot. I've gotten to accomplish a lot. Alliances like PAR and One helped me accomplish a lot of these things, and supported me. And so basically it's me giving back now that I've had help and I've learned a lot, and I taught myself a lot, and we just kept refining that blade, and I got better and better and better. And now it's time to give back the knowledge to other players that maybe don't know it all, or kind of lost. It's meant to be a guide to help you get from here to there, and I try to give as much info as I can, but I don't remember everything all the time. So anyway, I hope this video helps you along your journey, and have a good night.